he said something, I never forgot it. He's like, Sean, in life, you're either winning or you're learning. Natalie Youn, everyone. Thank you so much for being on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We've been talking about this for a little while, having you on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you joined.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, before we jumped into things, we were talking about what it's like to go to school in Los Angeles, public school versus private school.
Right.
And you were giving me your take on that.
Yeah, the lowdown.
The lowdown,
Right,
being
on
that
the
you went to public school.
I did. Yeah. I went to school, the public schools, and I like I was telling you, I think I turned out okay.
You turned out great.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you turned out great. And now you have little ones and you're trying to figure out, where are you going to put them into school?
Right.
I don't have little ones yet. Not
but
something I have to think about.
I mean, I think LAUSD will probably take them down that route.
Yeah.
Right? So they could see both sides of a coin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to give the audience some background on you and I.
Sounds good.
How we met.
Okay.
Okay, I'm curious to know how you think we met. And I'll say like, yeah, that's kind of how I think about it too.
Okay, so I think my friend
Boris
let me know, he said, hey, there's this guy that I just met at a networking event, and I think you guys would hit it off, and, if there's ever a need, but you should meet him. And then I think he connected us in email. I didn't have a need, so I was like, okay, hi.
Yeah.
And then,
by the way, I have to just say, I reached out to you, or he connected us, and you and I like talked on the phone, and you were super kind.
Oh,
yeah.
Good.
It was a quick 10-minute conversation. You're like, Sean, it's so nice to connect with you. Like, I don't have any needs right now. I'll keep you in mind down the road.
Yeah.
But I just remember the first impression I had with you, maybe it was like a year, 2 years ago, was like, you were just very kind over the phone.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So actually, you had reached out to me again recently.
Yes.
Right? A few months ago.
Yeah.
And I said the same thing. Oh, well, we're fine. I don't really have a need.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of days later,
Yeah.
do you remember? I think I emailed you and I
you're
said,
like, Shh.
actually, I need your help.
Yeah, you're like, something came up, Sean. Could totally use your help finding a warehouse. And so you and I chatted on the phone.
Yeah.
And then we've been basically talking almost daily about finding you this new warehouse. And we just found you a warehouse in downtown Los Angeles. And you're in the process of building it out.
Yeah.
Super excited for you and
Yeah, can I just
what's
say
ahead?
something?
Yeah.
It's really funny. I think the situation, when you talk about if you're in sales, how you just have to kind of just keep reaching out to people, and it's all about timing.
Yeah.
So fortuitous. I
Yeah.
think. I mean, you just hit me at the right time, right? I mean, thank God you had called, because I would have just been like, oh, who do I reach out to? Because I kind of had forgotten, right? It wouldn't have come to mind immediately.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyone in sales listening or in business development, it's all about persistence and just not being annoying.
Yeah.
Because sometimes sales reps can be kind of annoying, and they're hitting you up too much.
And they don't know how to read the room.
Yes, correct. But it's all about being persistent. But I say this with sales, you want to be persistent, but you want to be charming.
Right.
And so I'm not necessarily saying that's what I was, but I'm saying you don't want to. Well, thank you, but you don't want to come across as being annoying or desperate.
Yeah.
So you just want to have consistency in your follow up, because
just be on the radar.
It has a lot to do with timing. Yeah. Sometimes it's just you called the person at the right time. And this is a belief that I have is you're one relationship away from your life changing, right? Or you're one phone call away from your life changing. And so here I was you and I happened to touch base and talk, and I just happened to call you at the right time. And then now we just got you a new cool warehouse in downtown Los Angeles.
Super excited about that.
Okay. So we got you a warehouse in downtown Los Angeles. Okay. For the audience, you are a badass entrepreneur.
Oh, thanks.
Tell everyone about DoggieLawn, because I think it's super cool.
Okay, so DoggieLawn is a business that we started a few years back, and it's a super niche business. It's really cool. We basically send out sod, real grass, to people who have dogs, primarily people who live in an apartment, and so they don't have a backyard. So they'll put the grass out on the balcony or inside their living situation, and their dog has a little backyard for them to go to the bathroom on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that idea?
I was living in Marina Del Rey, and I had been working a corporate job. And I remember, let me back up even more. My boyfriend at the time was...
Husband now.
Husband now, yes, thank you.
What's up, Zach?
We were living in a house. We wanted to get work done. We had to move to an apartment. We had 2 dogs. I was working a super grueling corporate job. And I was gone for like 12 hours a day. So I was like, what are we going to do? Because we don't have a backyard. So I was like, we need a solution for our balcony. And so I started actually getting this grass from like a nursery. And then, you know, it was great. We lived there for about like 2 years. I loved having this option. It was so much better than plastic pea pads or anything else. And then when I eventually left my super grueling corporate job, this was one of the business ideas that I had because I really liked it, right? And I thought, how cool would it be actually to have it delivered to someone's house instead of me having to go and like do the work of like getting it, putting it in my car and replacing it. And so we just started locally and then it just kind of grew over time. And so now it's nationwide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
And you've been in business now for
over 14 years.
14 years.
Just crazy.
That's
I'm like the
amazing.
potty queen because I have because that spawned other ideas in the potty space.
Yeah.
So we have other things. So we have one that's called bark potty and it's bark instead of grass
Okay.
that dogs can pee on and it's non-perishable. And then we have a new line of these washable pet mats where it's like kind of like a fancy rug and a regular pee pad. If they got married, that would be our love wag rug. Yeah. And then we also have a kitty lawn, a version for cats to kind of chill out on. It's an enrichment type of space.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so-
A lot of different products.
Yeah.
And business-wise, business
This
seems
is good.
Business
It's good.
seems to be going very good.
I mean, knock on wood, despite everything going on right now with, you know, the tariffs and everything, it's going good.
What are your thoughts on the tariffs?
I think what I'm going to say is probably what everyone else is saying. I mean, it's really kind of crazy. The supply chain has stopped. We basically had to put all of our orders from China on hold until basically this whole tariff thing settles down because we can't afford to pay the tariffs. I mean, we're talking like, you know,
I don't even know what it is.
I think it's like 150%.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I have a product that I sell to people that's kind of like premium, right? Because you could use plastic pee pads from like Petco or the dollar store, but you know, you're choosing to get the grass or the bark potty because it's a little bit, you know, different. It's unique. It's natural. But I can only charge so much, right? If we have a tariff like increasing our products. And by the way, so our grass and the bark and everything is from the U.S., but some of the components like the plastic tray that the grass is from China, right? As is everything else.
Yeah.
So, you know, okay, I think we're just all kind of waiting to see what happens. Hopefully the dust will settle and they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if it'll ever go back to the same thing with China. I think they're really upset at us. Yeah. I heard someone say it's like basically the equivalent of you gave them the divorce papers and now you're like, oh, just kidding. Now the spouse is like, no, I'm not going back.
It's like never the same.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think too many words have been said.
Yeah. So as a business owner, are you thinking about how you can pivot and start to manufacture or purchase those plastics in the U.S. or even like maybe local Mexico or these other countries that have less?
We're looking at other suppliers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always.
This is real stuff, by the way. Like
is.
this is happening right now with these tariffs, and it's like you're a business owner and this impacts you, and you're having to make decisions. And there's like, what would be, if I was in your shoes, what would be really hard for me is it's like there isn't a lot of clarity.
There isn't.
So there's so much uncertainty on what's going to happen, and there doesn't seem like a clear path forward because it seems like it's a little bit of what's happening is negotiations. Yeah. And so that must be like frustrating.
Yeah, but I think as a
hard.
business owner, that's just every day.
Yeah.
Every day you're having to pivot.
Yeah.
Pivot, because something changes. Nothing, I swear to God, nothing ever happens the way it's supposed to. And anything where it's supposed to just take like 5 minutes to do has to always take so much longer. And it's just Murphy's Law. So I think for me, like I already anticipated that this was going to happen. We already knew that there was going to be, you know, when he was campaigning, he was talking about tariffs.
Yes.
So we already saw the writing on the wall. So we were already pivoting, right?
That's smart.
Yeah.
Super smart.
Yeah.
Wait, so people that don't know Murphy's Law, let's talk about Murphy's Law.
Yeah. Okay.
How do you define Murphy's Law?
Murphy's Law is anything wrong that can happen will.
Yeah.
Right. And I just think that as a business owner, you know, I don't mean to sound pessimist, but I think I almost just take this, I ingrain the Murphy's Law thing where anything wrong that can happen will happen so that I always have a backup. right? And that I'm prepared.
Yeah.
Because I think I just, as a business owner, I have to see like 5-10 steps ahead so that I can prepare myself and my team as much as possible. So we don't have like a blip in our product or our services.
And so I actually noticed this with you, Natalie, when we were going through finding you a warehouse.
Yeah.
In that like there were obstacles and hurdles and you just had a really good mindset. Like you were very positive and you're like, oh, this is how we learn, Sean. Like this, we got to like pivot and we got to keep moving forward. But like you had a very positive mindset towards obstacles that kind of came throughout the transaction, which I think that's pretty normal, is like you run into like, I don't like kind of issues or hurdles that you have to overcome. But I did find you had this like mindset towards these types of things that I found to be very inspiring and actually unique to how you kind of lead.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, right. Because like, I think there was one thing where we were negotiating with one particular property, but I still kept looking.
Yeah.
Right.
You did.
And I said it wasn't even a done deal. I think in my mind, I'm like, well, it's a 50-50. So I have to anticipate if it's successful, great. And if it's not, I already need to just prepare for that.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to wait for that because, you know, look, I can't control a lot of things in life, but I can control how I react to things.
Yes.
And how I prepare for things. And so I think that's where the preparation comes.
Yeah.
But I think over time, I just realized is working with so many different people to be more, maybe also the kids. I just am more patient now, I think, in my life. And then also, I just like to think, you know, okay, this is just a starting point.
Yeah.
And I just work with people because, you know, that old adage, what is it? You get more bees with honey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. That one actually I've always had. It's just to like be really nice.
Yeah.
Right?
Kill it with kindness.
Yeah.
I heard something one time. I heard the guy I was helping find another warehouse. He said something and I never forgot it. He's like, Sean, in life, you're either winning or you're learning. So like not looking at it through the lens of like failure. It was actually looking through the lens of like, okay, we're either succeeding, and if we're not succeeding, we're learning so we don't like repeat mistakes.
Absolutely.
And it stuck with me.
That guy sounds like my best friend.
Yeah, he's great.
I love that mantra because I always tell my team, look, if you make a mistake, that's okay, but let's learn from this.
Yes, totally.
Right? And then if you keep making the mistake, then that's another
it's an issue.
conversation, but let's learn from this so that we don't make the same mistake again.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Okay, so let's go back.
Yeah.
Natalie Youn in the early days. Give us a little bit about your background.
Okay, so I grew up in the Valley, in the San Fernando Valley. I was a Valley girl. And then I went to school at UCLA. And then I just never flew the nest. I always stayed in LA. My first job was in marketing for a food company. It was a great experience. I really, really liked that. I spent a couple years there. And then I kind of actually stayed in that industry of food, doing marketing and, you know, seeing the manufacturing side. And then I went back while I was working at Nestle to get my MBA at SC. And I think after taking some of the classes there, I was like, oh, I really want to be an entrepreneur. But see, that seed, that entrepreneurial seed, had always been in me because I remember in my 20s always thinking of ideas and always thinking like, oh, I wonder how I could do this. And this was kind of before the internet is what it is today, right? And I feel like it was a little bit hard to be able to bridge that gap between idea to execution, and maybe also just being a little bit younger. But once I took those classes, you know, I realized that I really wanted to go into that route, even though I had worked in this corporate job that was my dream job. I had actually gone to get my MBA so that I could work at this company.
Nestle.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's like Nestle, P&G, Clorox, those are like the pinnacles if you're in brand marketing. Like that is where you want to work. And so I think from there it was like, well, if I stayed on the route of working in a corporate job, you know, I could like move up the ladder for like different companies, but stay in consumer product goods. But it was the entrepreneurial bug, like not to sound so like cliche, but it bit me.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I get that. It's like inherently who you are.
Yeah.
Right. You either, to a certain degree, you either have it or you don't. One of the questions I have for you is, what did you learn at Nestle from the branding side?
I learned a lot, and it was actually not even just the branding. I feel like really helps me nowadays in life, like looking back. It was actually how to run a business, because the way that Nestle did the marketing, like the function of the marketing team is that you're running a little small business, whatever brand you're on. And so you have exposure to the P&L, the financials, the manufacturing, then the advertising and the creative, but all the different facets that it takes to run a business, right? So I think from that perspective that you kind of start getting your feet wet of like, oh, okay, this is what running a business is like. And now that I'm doing it, I actually feel like that was super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think married on with the MBA, I think that kind of like solidified things because you have the academic plus the real world experience. But it's been super helpful because I have talked to some friends where they're like, oh, I'm not so strong on the financials or I'm not so strong on this part. But I feel like I have a really good understanding of the whole like 360 of how a business is.
Because you had the real world example, but then you also had like the schooling. So you could get like very precise on like whether it was finance or marketing.
Right.
Like you could learn all those things.
Right. Like I had a view into what it takes. And so, for instance, like even supply chain, I don't really know how that works, but I know the theory, like I know the philosophy behind it and what needs to happen. Right. And so I know like, okay, well, we need this part. This part is missing. And I can identify that. So I just need to find a person who's actually specialized in that. Right.
That's so cool because that's something I believe too. It's like, I've learned this, it's like who, not how. So sometimes entrepreneurs want to find out like, hey, how do I do this? Where it's a mindset of like, I don't necessarily need to know how to do it. I just need to find who can do it. And then you find the right person to put in that position so they can kind of like focus or like oversee that part of the business.
Right.
Yeah.
But that is really hard.
The who, not how?
Finding the who's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting in itself. Like, how do you recruit? Like, how do you find people?
I mean, we've used recruiters. We've used like online. We've tried networking, LinkedIn, even overseas. And everything just kind of boils down to the same story, no matter where you're looking. Like, finding someone who's a good fit for your team who has the specialty or the experience that you need is really hard. And I always tell my team, like, they are probably so tired of me saying this, but it's exactly like dating. Like 100%. Because you go on a date, that's the interview. That's like the first date. Then you go on another interview, it's a second date. Everything on paper, the resume is kind of like, when you're on, Tinder now? Like that whole profile, like on paper, they look good.
Yeah.
You go on the date, everything seems good. And then you start to get serious and then the cracks start to form, right? And you're just like, oh, what happened? You find out that they like lied about certain skills that they had or that they're weird in some way or, and then you have to break up with them.
Yeah.
And
the breakup's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's like, not you, it's me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
I heard something one time, I thought it was so funny and so accurate that when you're dating, you like send your representative. So like on like the first like few dates, it's like your representative. It's like the best version of yourself.
Right.
So you're sending your representative of yourself. And I just thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah. So I like had a friend that would ask like, oh, are you still sending your representative? When you go and like meeting with people. Because it's like you don't want to just like, spill the beans or like be so vulnerable up front. So you got to like.
It doesn't get any better than that. So it's the same thing. Like when you're on a date or you're working at somewhere.
Yeah.
If you start to see things like flaws.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, it doesn't get any better. Like that is the best representation. But if they're already out of the starting gate with like some issues. Like for instance, we had this guy start today and the person he's working with doesn't like it when they're late. So I told the agency, I said, please make sure he's not late.
Was he late?
Of course he was. Murphy's Law.
Gosh.
Murphy's Law, right? Because I knew I said, just whatever you do, make sure he's not late because the person he's working with cannot stand it when they're late. I want him to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course he was late.
Yeah, he was late. Brutal.
Yeah.
That is so brutal.
So.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I don't know. Hopefully he'll knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
Redeem himself.
Yeah. Is there a question you like to ask when you're interviewing people?
I think I'm the worst interviewer.
Really?
Yeah, because I actually really like to see the best of people. And so everyone I meet, I think of the potential.
Yeah.
And I see the good in them and I want to give them benefit of the doubt. Whereas I actually had someone on my team a few years back and we called her Judge Judy because she could actually just look at someone and just like judge them and say, they're not going to work out.
Yeah,
You
some
like a
people
sixth
have.
sense.
Yeah, some people have that intuition.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
I
They
don't.
just like really, they're able
Yeah.
to really read people.
I know, it's so good.
Some people are better at it than others, for sure.
What do you think you are?
In regards to reading
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
I think I have pretty good intuition. I think I have pretty good instincts on people. Yeah. I mean, it could always be better,
You could
but
charge for that.
well, what I do recommend to people is, I know I made a joke about sending your representative,
Yeah.
but I actually think that does you a disservice.
Really? In what
yeah,
way?
because I think if you can just be honest and present yourself how you are,
Yeah.
then you don't need to be insecure. Because if you let people know, like, hey, here's my strengths and here's my flaws, and you have enough self-awareness to like know that, and you can lead with that, so the person on the other side is actually going to really appreciate that, because then they know they can trust you,
Right.
but they know what they're getting. So if I told you, let's just say I was hoping you would hire me, and I'm like, Natalie, I'm not great at Excel, like I'm really not great at financial modeling, you then don't have to have expectations of me that like, oh, Sean's going to help, be very strong on the Excel modeling aspect of what I need him to do. It's like, just be honest and upfront. And I think it might be uncomfortable at first, but in the long run, it's going to serve you much better.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
But I think the person you're saying that to has to be on that same wavelength
Yeah.
to appreciate and realize that.
Yeah.
So if you said that to me, I would say that's actually really great, because the way that I manage people is I like to play to people's strengths.
Yes.
Right? So if he said he's not good at that, that's great, because you're right. I don't have to
Yeah.
spin my wheels to realize that. He told me
Yeah.
that up front. So I would say, okay, Sean, that's fine. What are you good at? And I know your superpowers.
Yeah.
And then we could play to those advantages.
Yeah.
Right?
I was just talking to someone about this, is like, I totally agree with you. You want to find out people's unique ability or their superpowers and put them into those roles.
Right. Absolutely.
And then and everyone has different superpowers or
do.
unique abilities. And so
Right.
it's like, let's have you play to your strengths. Let's
Right.
not have you play in your weaknesses.
100%.
And by the way, work's going to be way more enjoyable for all of us.
I know, right?
Because like if you're playing in the things you're really good at, if you're good at it, you usually like it.
Right.
Whereas like when you do the things you don't like and you're not good at, that's when I think work to a certain degree becomes like kind of
Grueling.
brutal.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're doing something you're not good at.
Yeah.
Right. And it's hard. No, I
Yeah.
completely agree.
Yeah, I remember I had this job, like I had an internship, and like at that point I didn't know much about business, but I knew like in college you need to get an internship, and like I was studying real estate and business, and so I'm like, I should go get a finance like real estate internship.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, this is brutal. Like, this is so brutal. I had to sit at a desk. I had to like enter all of these like financial models. And I'm like, is this what life is after school? Because this is so brutal. And like, no shame on people that enjoy that. Because I have friends that are like, they know the hotkeys with Excel and they love Excel. I love those people, because it's like, those are not my strengths. And I appreciate that those are your strengths.
Yeah.
But I remember being like, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm not good at this. You should find someone else who's way better at it. So I quickly realized, I'm like, this is not the career path I want to go into. I stayed in real estate.
Yeah.
I just went down a different career path of like, not just being kind of like the analyst per se. I'm like more on the negotiations with people, like trying to inspire, trying to like oversee like a process, kind of like what we went through.
And you're really good at that.
Yeah, thanks.
You found your
Yeah.
niche.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I've just also been like very blessed and fortunate to surround myself with people that like, they don't want to do that type of stuff.
Yeah.
They want to do like kind of the back end stuff. And so to your point, I think it's really important to find teammates
Right.
that can lean into their strengths.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So going back though to, you were talking about Nestle days and what you learned from Nestle, and then you went to USC.
Yeah.
And then you basically were like, okay, it's time for me to go into this entrepreneurial journey.
Right.
You had this like pulling or this like calling. Yeah.
It's like how actors, I guess, when they have that calling.
So what was the inflection point? Like, what was it that you're like, okay, I'm going to walk away from this like dream job, as you called it, which I know your parents were like, there's some stuff going on with the parents, not necessarily understanding what you were doing. Like, walk us through what was happening in that moment, and what was the pull towards like starting DoggieLawn?
Okay. So there was a little bit of a tangent, right? So I'll go into that. So I've been working at Nestle for a couple years. I went back to go get my MBA concurrently. So while I was still working at Nestle, I was going to school. And then in my last semester, I think that's when I was like, I think I'm going to go for it. Right. And it was also because my boyfriend at the time, said, he was also an entrepreneur and he had done really well and was in that VC world and everything. And he said, look, you should just go for it. Like, you really should. If this is what you believe in and this is what you really want to do and you feel passionate about it. And I will say it did help having him as kind of a fallback, right? Because we had been living together at the time. So I will say that for me was really huge and super helpful. Because when you're in a job like that, to go and then say, I'm going to just turn my back on all of that security, right? All of that stability, everything that I'd worked for, to go then into this netherworld where you don't have any stability, you don't know what is going to happen, there's no predictability, right? That was really scary. And I know that happens to a lot of people. That goes through their mind when they're making that transition. I mean, how could it not, right? So I do remember actually telling my parents that I was going to go and like leave, I was going to quit and do something. And then also, to actually make it even worse, I had been interviewing for another job and they had offered me a position as a director. So it was a step up, right?
At Nestle?
No, at a different place.
Oh.
And I turned it down. And I remember crying as I turned it down because I was like, oh, wow, I'm actually really doing this. And I told her, the lady was so kind. She said, no, I get it. She's like, if that's what you really believe in, like, you should do it. And I really wish you the best of luck. She was really nice and super supportive, but it was just so scary. Like, it really comes to terms when you're turning something down, like another opportunity, because this was a stepping stone. Like, this is what I had been working for the last, 10 years or so, to have this type of career path. But I didn't actually leave Nestle for DoggieLawn. There was another opportunity, and I had a, like, quote unquote business partner at the time, and we were going to do another product, but it fell apart. Again, Murphy's Law. Of course, it fell apart after I quit. And then I had kind of this reckoning.
Can I ask why that fell apart?
Okay. Yes. So really interesting. This is actually a good tidbit for any entrepreneurs out there who are selling a product, that the sales lead that we had lined up, it was a really big store in Canada. And my partner had some connections and they were going to do a purchase order. And so we were like, okay, well, I guess we should go and like really amp up, like, and accelerate this product that we're developing. And then I quit my job. And then a few weeks into it, that Canadian store that was going to buy our product, it like went away. That opportunity went away. And then it was like, well, who's going to buy this? And I wasn't comfortable with the way that things were going, that I wanted to invest all this capital to do a production run of this product, because it's more risk, right? So I said, okay, well, you know what? I don't think this is for me. I think I'm going to just back away from this opportunity. And, mind you, like, I had other ideas that I'd been toying with in my head, but I think that at that point, I just was like, I went into this what my husband said at that time. He's like, I think you're depressed. And I think he was probably right. But I think I was just like, wow, like, I really just left my job. I did that. Now I don't have anything. Like, what am I going to do? And it's like, it was like this moment of shame, right? Like, I couldn't even like talk to my friends because I felt like, I don't even actually remember looking back if I had told them, but I think it was just a moment of shame. Like, oh, I'm at this low point. I like quit my really great job and I don't really have anything lined up. And my whole entire life after college was, just having that stability, having one job after another, and just always kind of moving up that ladder. And then, my husband was like, well, you got to like do something. He's like, you got to go like see a therapist or something. So I did that, by the way. And that's another thing, is like, mental health is really important. So I always feel like people should really like address that. But, I did that. And then I kind of got back on my feet. He was like, just all your ideas that you've had, do all of them. And that was really great advice that my husband said. He said, just throw them all out there and work on all of them at the same time, and then see which one sticks. And that was DoggieLawn.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember, like, I even just was taping flyers around, and then I had a website.
Wait, you started by taping flyers?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Right? It was Marina Del Rey. There's a lot of apartments and a lot of dogs. And I just remember doing everything, right?
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Wait, so you made flyers and just started like going around the apartment complexes
yeah,
and
like
putting them
leaving
up?
flyers. And then I had a website, and that, it's just some really jinky looking website. I mean, this was like in 2011, right?
Wow.
And like, I think back then, like even Amazon was not even that big back then. I mean, it was kind of, but not what it is now, right?
Yeah.
And people weren't shopping online really, but then people found me, and that was the crazy thing, is because I didn't even have any advertisements. Like I didn't advertise on Google. I don't even know if there was like Google advertising back then, but someone just found me, and then other people found me, and then it just kind of started coming in, right?
And that's when you were like, okay, I'm going to lean into this idea.
Yeah.
Because out of all the things that you tried, which I have to ask, what was like another thing that you tried?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember. I think I remember trying to sell my parents, like they were in the beauty supply business. And I think I remember selling on Amazon. And I actually kind of kick myself now, looking back. That's one of my regrets, is that I didn't keep that one going while I was doing DoggieLawn. Because Amazon is like such a behemoth now.
Yeah.
And had I kept that going, it would have done really well.
Really?
Yeah. But I think I was just like, oh, it's too much. Like, let me just concentrate on this one. Right. But
which is an interesting question in itself.
Yeah.
Like regrets early on, if any. So it sounds like
lots.
Lots?
Yeah, lots. Right? Because didn't we talk about that earlier? It's whatever regret you have or a mistake, you kind of just learn from it.
Yeah.
But you're always
But is
making
that a
mistakes.
regret then? Because if you're like a better version of yourself because that thing happened and you're learning from it, like is it truly a regret?
Yeah, it's a regret. It's a regret, but there's also a learning.
Yeah.
Right? So I think for me, from that, it was like, well, if I see something doing well, I need to find a way to kind of also cultivate it and not turn my back on that opportunity. Right? Because there's not that many opportunities that come knocking. So I feel like whatever comes into my lap, like I need to, be thankful that it's there and recognize it and then do something about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure. Yeah. What was the moment where you knew DoggieLawn was picking up some momentum, where you're like, oh, wow, there's something here?
Okay, that actually, I do have an answer for that, because that I'll never forget. It was that one call from this lady in Miami, and we had only been doing LA, and she called and she was like, I saw this on the internet and I would love to do this. And do you ship to Miami? I really need it for my dogs. And I remember having this conversation, like a very honest conversation. I said, well, we just started, and it had been like a year in, maybe a year and a half. And I said, like, or maybe even not even, it was a couple months in, actually. It wasn't even that long. And I said, no, actually, we are just doing LA. But you know what? If you're willing to try it, I'll ship it to you and let's just see how it goes. Right? And you can give me feedback. And she said, yeah, sure, let's do it. And she was great. I wish I had remembered her name, but we started doing that. And so then we were like, oh, look, we can ship it. It like can go to Miami. And then it just opened up all these doors where we could just do that.
Yeah. Right? Which, by the way, you're shipping a live product, right?
So plant.
It's like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
crazy.
Like, I have to imagine you only have a certain, like, how quickly does the grass stay alive before it goes dead?
I mean, theoretically, look, if you had it in your place and it was not being peed on, it's a plant. So if you water it and fertilize it, it'll live for like weeks, if not months. It's a piece of grass.
What about, so you had plenty of time to ship it? Like there wasn't going to be any issues?
But that being said, right, look, when you're shipping
watered.
to like Miami, it sits on a truck, right? And if it's in the summer, the truck gets hot because there's no air conditioning in any of those FedEx trucks. So we have to like get it from the farm and then we ship it right out. And then we tell people like to open it right away because the grass will recover, but it's tight, right? Like we don't ship anywhere. We don't ship to like Hawaii or Alaska. Like it's 4 or 5 days, maybe even 6 days. And then the grass, if it's not hot, it will do fine. If it's like over 100 degrees, then it starts to get a little dicey, right?
Yeah. When someone buys the grass, how long do they have it before they have to order the next patch of grass?
I mean, it really depends on the people. We always tell people, or I used to when I was doing customer service, look, like you could have this for a month. Really, like your dog, remember, they're like routine based, and they'll, as long as it's clean, you pick up the poo like you would if you're on a walk, they'll still keep going on it as long as it's not mushy and it's not dirty. It doesn't have poo on it. But people, they really like to have the green part of it and just the cleanliness. So they'll change it out more frequently. So some people get it every week, but most people get it every other week.
Got it.
Yeah.
And have you always been a dog lover?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, like crazy dog lover. Like what was that? There was that cartoon, like when we were young, and it was like this one girl who like really loved animals, and she would like smush them and crush them because she loved them so much. I don't know if this is like ringing a bell, but that was me.
I don't know.
like loved animals.
You know? Yeah.
I'll take a look here.
It's like something with the I don't remember what it was, but she loved it. So that I've always loved animals, and
Did you grow up with animals?
finally my parents got me a dog when
What
I was
kind of
in
dog?
like 7th grade. It was a Bichon,
Got it.
right?
I don't
And
even know what a Bichon is.
like a little fluffy white dog.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I like smothered it, and looking back, I'm like, oh, that's probably not so good. But I have 2 dogs now.
Did you have a dog with Zach early on
Yeah.
when you had this?
Well, okay, so
whole
when I
idea?
first started dating him, I had a dog. And then
What kind of dog?
it was a mutt. It was a rat terrier mix, right? Her name was Mia. She was great. And then when we moved in, we got another dog, Walnut. And of course, they like hated each other. We got
Murphy's Law.
yeah, we got right. We got Walnut for Mia so that they wouldn't be lonely when we were gone. And of course, they hated each other till the day they died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but we love them. And then after they died, I was like, well, I think I need some time to recover. But I think it was like 3 or 4 months before I said I need another dog. Like I love having dogs. And then we recently got a cat. Did I tell you we got a cat?
No, you didn't. Are you loving the cat?
I love the cat. I've never had a
Really?
got before.
Yeah.
So now I'm like this cat person. Yeah.
Nice. Cats are cool. I'm very allergic to them.
Okay, wait. I am too.
But then how do you have a cat?
Okay, so there's this miracle thing where, do you know what it is that we're allergic to with cats?
No idea.
It's the spit, the saliva. So when they clean themselves off and they, it kind of gets in the air, and so there's this. I think it's like fel D1. That's the like thing that we're allergic to. So
Have you been taking it in pill form or something?
no, you can neutralize it by egg whites.
Oh,
and so what they have
interesting.
now is they have pet food that has egg whites in it, and it neutralizes the fel D1 that the cat's saliva has.
Got it. So that's in the cat's food.
Yeah.
He or she eats it, and then you no longer have the allergies.
Yeah.
Did you try that out prior to buying the cat? Because if you're allergic to it and you get a cat, that could be very problematic.
Yeah. Okay, so we had a situation where we had a warehouse cat that we rescued.
Mm.
And
And
we were kind of rotating it around with like different people would take it over the weekend. And then I took it a couple weekends. So I started feeding it that food, and then within like 3 weeks, my son and I were like not allergic to it.
Oh, wow.
So it actually worked, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's Purina Pro. It's like a Purina product.
I did not know that existed.
Yeah.
That's
I
really,
had been
really
reading
great.
about it. I had been reading, so I was really familiar with it before I had cats.
Yeah.
About this whole thing with the egg whites, because I'm very, very allergic. Where it's like my mouth itches and I could feel like my ears, and just
That's kind of how I
everything.
am.
Yeah,
I get all clogged up. I
Yeah.
can't even breathe.
yeah, my eyes. Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's considering getting a dog? By the way, I'm just
Yeah.
talking about myself because
Oh,
I
are
have
you?
been really thinking about getting a dog, but I just
Yeah.
haven't pulled the trigger just because I'm not sure it would be fair to the dog.
In what way?
I'm on the go. Yeah, I'm up early.
You could take the dog with you. Get a little.
I'm definitely not gonna get like.
Get a little
I don't envision this type of dog.
You sure?
know,
You
like
want a big
little-
dog?
I want a big dog. Yeah.
Yeah, get a big dog.
Yeah, I want to get a big dog.
I don't think we're deserving of dogs.
Mm.
God, they're so amazing for like your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love you unconditionally.
Yeah. Everyone I talk to that has a dog
Yeah.
says something along those lines.
Yeah.
I one time asked one of my good friends, I was like, what percentage would you say your life got better once you got the dog?
I feel like when I let me answer it in a different way. When I don't have the dogs, because when my last set of dogs died, it felt empty, right? Just that companionship, and then just the attention and the energy that they bring to your house. I mean, they're such amazing creatures. And so actually, that's why I love doing what we do, because we're doing this product in the dog space.
For something you love
Right,
so much.
right. Yeah. But I mean, I would say totally get it. I mean, they're just so good for your soul. and,
Yeah.
like, stress and everything. I heard something about older people that they live 40%, not 40%, maybe they live longer if they have an animal.
Yeah. for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree that. And I actually see that with my grandparents. I have a grandma who's still alive. My grandfather passed away not too long ago, but she's got a dog, and that dog's on its last limb.
Yeah.
But we've been trying to encourage her to get a new puppy, to get a new dog.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That'll definitely give
They
her,
are the best. Dogs are the best.
Yeah.
I love dogs. That's why I'm not considering getting one. I just didn't want to be unfair to it. You know, like I want to make sure it has like a massive yard it can play in. And
Right. You could get a DoggieLawn.
I could get
Or a bark potty, you know. There
Yeah.
are things for that.
Yeah, you're right.
I know someone.
Yeah, you're right. You do have the hook up there for sure. For sure.
Right. But you
Yeah.
know what? I mean, and we're fortunate that we live in LA and
Yeah.
everyone takes their dog around.
Everyone takes their dog.
Yeah.
And everywhere is pretty friendly
Really friendly.
to dogs.
You could take your dog around.
Yeah.
Like if you had, whatever big dog that you have, like they could be right here, right now with us.
Yeah. That is true. How long? So DoggieLawn's been around for 14 years.
Yeah.
And at what point were you like, I might just want to tap out or just go a different direction or pivot?
I mean, it was the first couple years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was just a grind.
It was just such a grind, and I wasn't making the same amount of money that I was making in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And I was like, did I just throw this away for nothing?
Mm.
And also the stuff that you have to do as an entrepreneur. Like,
What
I could
happened
talk
with
about that.
What happened with the Miami woman? When did that happen?
I think that was it was really early on. It was like the first year.
Okay,
within
so
the first
that
year.
was like one of the big moments of success. But even during that time, there was still like
Because
a
here's
lot of
Yeah.
trials and tribulations and wondering, am I supposed to be
Because
doing
here's
this?
the thing is I have a product where it's super expensive to ship. Shipping is a big thing. We FedEx everything.
Because
not
of
just
you,
US
because you have
grass,
to.
right?
Yeah.
It's grass. USPS would take 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So you have to imagine if you know about like P&Ls and stuff, like that takes a significant chunk of our, of our costs. So, ours is like the cookie model. Have you heard of that one where
No.
it's the economies of scale where like if you make like 5 cookies, like you're probably in the red because all the ingredients cost so much. But it's not until you scale and you're making like 10,000 cookies, and you have to find that inflection point where it's like, oh, okay, now you're starting to make money. And that's what it was. Because again, like we're spending so much on shipping, right?
Yeah. And so the first few years, it was like not.
It would be like break even or something like that, right? But it wasn't where like I would think like if I had stayed in the corporate world, I would be making so much more money.
Than you were at that moment in time.
Yeah.
Because now, I don't know.
No, now it's like
Yeah, the business is very successful.
It's
I mean,
right.
I don't know if we can
And
say, but it's doing very well.
It's doing great.
Yeah.
I'm really fortunate. But it's also as like a mom, it's been great because it allows me more flexibility.
Yes.
Right?
Autonomy.
Yeah.
I mean,
so much. I'm here, right?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be able to do this if I wasn't corporate.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's really
You'd have like
important.
2 or 3 phones, like, it's like ringing off the
I know,
hook.
right?
Like-
They're like, where are you? Why are you not on Slack?
no, that is a
Yeah.
big part of it is like the first few years are really, really hard. And it's not guaranteed that you're going to be successful.
No.
But if you are successful, then you have, the ability to make good money. So the quality of life, improves. And then on top of that, you have the flexibility to kind of do what you want when you want to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's like really hard. It's important. I think so. When I started having kids, it was like a really critical time in our business where had I not had kids, I would have been able to dedicate more time to ramp up our business faster. Because that's the other thing too, is like I've been doing this for 14 years, but like we're at this spot, which is great. Like I won't deny that, but had I been not a mom trying to spend time with like raising kids, I would have spent more time building the business faster, right? And so it took a little bit of time to like scale it to this point.
Yeah.
Right?
How do you balance that?
It's hard.
Yeah.
Whoever said that, was it Sheryl Sandberg who said you could have both? It's like a liar. Such a liar. It's like such bullshit. Sorry, I won't say that, but
Is that, it's so interesting because my dad one time said that to me too. He was like, Sean, you got to make choices in life.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard to be a successful businessman and a great father.
yeah,
There are sacrifices.
there are a ton of sacrifices.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I think that's the thing is we probably both grew up in a generation where they said like you can do it all.
Yeah.
You can have a great successful career and be a good like mom or dad, and it's not true. It's not. And it's BS because then you think like, oh well, I should be doing all this stuff, and you're hard on yourself. And
Yeah.
it's like you get to this point where you're like, no, that's That's not true. You can't do it all. You can either do one or the other, but you have to just decide. And it's okay, whatever you choose.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely. Yeah, I think that would be hard. Like having the expectation that everything should be good.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know how realistic that is.
It's not. And I think it's just harder on yourself. I think mentally.
Yeah.
Right? You're just like always grinding away at yourself.
Yeah, we had this guy named Scott Manker on the podcast who's such an incredible man. And he was the last episode. And he talks about the importance of like thinking through things through the gap and the gain. Have you heard about this?
No.
Oh, it's just like amazing concept.
Okay.
And it's this book where a lot of times as entrepreneurs or as leaders, you think about things through the lens of like, okay, I'm here and I want to be here, right? You think about the gap between like where I am now and where I want to go. And we like focus on that. And I think that's a lot to do with the success one has is like, it's kind of like it's never good enough where you're like, I want to be better. I want to like strive. I want more and more. And so the whole idea behind the gap and the gain is to get away from the gap and to focus more on the gain. And the gain is, it's not looking forward. It's actually looking back and being like, wow, look how far I've come.
Right.
Like, look at what I have. Like, it takes you from a state of like wanting and a little bit of scarcity mindset with the gap to all of a sudden, like you're in the gain, which is a state of gratitude.
Right.
And so like, that's something that it was such a cool podcast because I think of myself as a grateful person and being optimistic, but it was such a good reminder of to really think about life through the lens of the gain.
Right.
Where it's like,
you know who needs to hear that?
Who?
Am I allowed to, is this being recorded?
Yeah.
Is it?
Wait, are we being? Yeah.
Is it Bezos and Elon? Because I just feel like, the greed of the.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, but this is really interesting in itself is because like there's an argument to be made that you should focus on the gain, right? And a lot of entrepreneurs focus on the gap, but I'd also say like people that focus on the gap, there's good in that too, because they're the ones that really push society forward. Yeah. So there's this book, I don't know if you've ever read it, called Atlas Shrugged. No. It's just like it's like this amazing book that I think I read in college, but it's all about like the idea of progress, like progress forward, and capitalism is like a good thing, and like the hunger for more and pushing society forward is actually a good thing for helping society move forward.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I feel like there's always this balance, right? How do you find that sweet spot between that push for better and then just being appreciative of what you've accomplished?
That's true.
Like, that's good.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Because
I agree, but then would we have SpaceX? Would we have Tesla? Would we? I don't. That's a philosophical question that I'm just like, I don't know. But like, I do know, I do stand back and I'm grateful for it. As in when I see a rocket like land. Did you see the SpaceX rocket that like came down? That was pretty cool. Like you see stuff like that and you're like, wow, this is like a remarkable human feat.
I look at Waymo and I think,
Waymo, oh my gosh.
Right?
I'm still like, I see Waymos driving and I'm like running in the street and I'm like, happen if I kind of ran a little bit in the middle of the street? Like, would it stop?
Yeah, it would 100% stop.
I hope it would.
Yeah.
But it's still a little freaky to see cars without human beings.
Have you tried it?
Oh, no.
Oh, I've tried it.
What's it like?
It's great. It's amazing.
Really?
In fact, anyone who's listening to this, I would recommend it.
Do you have a promo code?
I should. I should have an affiliate code. I tell everyone it's great.
Really?
Yeah, because it's like your own chauffeur. And as a busy entrepreneur, I'm like sitting in the car, I'm getting through emails, I'm taking calls. I don't have an Uber driver who's annoyed that I'm talking on the phone. There's no judgment.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that because I think one of my favorite hacks is when I have a lot going on, ordering an Uber and just having them drive me. So it gives me a moment to like decompress or I can handle emails or phone calls. But to your point, I feel bad being on the phone with them in the front. And so I'm always like, hey, do you mind if I'm on the phone? And I can tell they're always like, okay, fine.
Right.
You know, like
so annoying.
I'm probably getting a bad review.
Right. You are getting a bad review. 100%.
You know, but like now with the Waymo, I'm like, I don't have to worry about that.
You don't. And it's very safe. I mean, it's like a very cautious driver. I'll tell you this, like when we were passing a school, I was with my kids and the Waymo was going 15 miles per hour. And I said, God, why is it going so slow? And I was like, oh, because we're next to a school and it's 15 miles per hour in front of a school. Nobody does that except a Waymo because it's following the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there a price difference with Waymo?
Yeah, it's also cheaper. You don't have to tip.
All right, it is cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay, this is
You
a
don't have
no-brainer.
to tip.
Wow, this is a no-brainer.
It's always clean. You're in a Jaguar. It's
Wait,
like
I have an idea. What if from now on, like with my client tours, we had Waymo?
You should totally do that.
What if I'm on like we're going to all these buildings and it's a Waymo? There's like no driver in the front. Like, I wonder if people.
You actually could do that because
so
Waymo has
cool,
a function now where you can do your errands and you could do multiple stops.
No way.
Yeah.
But I wonder if the Waymo would wait.
Yeah, I think.
You know what I mean? When you go into a building.
It doesn't wait. I think it just comes back. You like tell it, hey, come back, and it'll come back. But it'll be much cheaper because it's not a new ride every single time.
I feel like I'd have to ask whoever I was touring, is this okay if we take a Waymo? Because like you show up for a tour and they're like, wait, what is this? Oh, we're jumping in a car that doesn't have a driver. They'd be like, what the?
Right.
Yeah, that is wow. Okay, you've inspired me. I don't know if I'm going to do this for tours, but I definitely am going to start taking Waymo around town. Does it go all over Los Angeles?
No, it doesn't go on freeways.
Okay.
Right. And it only goes along the 10, like to downtown LA. So you can't take it to Gardena or like the South Bay.
Got it.
Or you can't take it to the Valley.
Okay.
Not yet.
Interesting. I'm definitely going to take it.
Yeah.
I would love to talk about your upbringing.
Okay.
And coming from an entrepreneurial family.
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
Not really.
I mean, like, yes, entrepreneurial, but not by choice.
Yeah. Well, you
right?
kind of brought this up that you were like your parents were not stoked when you made this decision to go into your own career path.
Okay,
I don't want to say own career path, be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, as an immigrant, like, and this goes. So my background's Korean, right? So any immigrant that comes to the U.S., like the likelihood is that your parents don't have a strong grasp of English. And so if you don't, and you're not highly educated, like an engineer or something like that, then your options are to find a job, like maybe in the hospitality or service industry, where you don't really have to talk, or, having your own business. And so for like a lot of Koreans, it was like a liquor store or dry cleaning or, one of those types of small businesses.
Where do they find these business opportunities? Like,
it's actually really interesting. So I learned about this in college. There's this thing with the like ethnic enclave. And so that's why you'll see, like, for instance, like Vietnamese people will be like, will typically have a nail shop.
Yes.
And it's because you'll have like one person come in, they'll do really well with the nail shop, and then they'll tell their friends. They'll say like, hey, what kind of, can you help set me up? And so they'll set them up because they have all that knowledge, right? And then it just starts to grow that community, right, where they help each other. So it's kind of the same thing with Koreans. With my parents, it was at that time like the dry cleaning, liquor stores, those types of businesses. Also like beauty. So I said that my parents did that. And that was the same thing where they got into business where other Koreans were currently operating, and they were able to kind of get them to help them understand how the business works and then open up their own shop. Right. So it's a grind. Like, I won't lie. It's definitely not glamorous, but they were working, 10, 12 hours a day. Right?
From what I understand, the Korean work ethic is incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think like I have that.
Yeah.
Like, I work crazy hours, but I really like working.
Yeah, I do too. What are your hours?
Like, I'll work.
I've definitely gotten late emails from you.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like working in the evening. If the kids are doing homework, I'll work too. Right. And it's just kind of like maybe 1 or 2 days a week or something. But, I really like working. I feel like I feel a lot of satisfaction.
I really like working too.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder if that's a problem, because I'm like,
it's only a problem if you think it's a problem.
Well, so like I'm the type of person where it's like, unless I have plans and like I intentionally said, oh, I'm going to do this, I would rather be working.
Yeah.
Like instead of just sitting there watching TV or like kind of not doing anything, it's like I'd rather be working.
There's nothing
unless there's plans of like, oh, we're going to go do this, or there's something on the calendar. Which,
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I think it depends on who you talk to, but I agree with you.
I mean, who's going to say that's a bad thing?
Maybe people that say like you should have more balance in your life, which.
But if you like doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like some people like doom scrolling on TikTok.
Yeah,
I like doing that, but working.
I like it too, honestly. Like TikTok is amazing. I feel like I've learned so much from TikTok, and so like. There's this like, we talk about doom scrolling, but it's like, I swear if you were to look at my TikTok feed, it's like all learning. It's like
mine
business, leadership, like.
And it's all condensed in like these quick bursts of information.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Current events. A lot of my TikTok is current events.
Yeah. I bet our FYP is the same. Probably similar.
What is that? F?
The for your page.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. But yeah, I told my parents, I was like, I was gonna go this entrepreneurial route, and my dad was so angry. Like he wouldn't talk. He was yelling at me.
No way.
Yeah. But you know, here's the thing: is like, so one thing. Let me just tell you, this is how hardcore my parents were. When I got married to my husband, we got married in Yosemite, and my parents were like, "We're not coming."
What?
Yeah.
Because of the business?
Yeah.
Or?
They were like, "We can't find anyone to watch the store." And I said, "Just close it." Like, I'm getting married, right? Like that's how hardcore they were.
Wow.
Right?
What kind of store was it?
It was just a beauty spot. I'm like, they're not gonna miss their they could live, you know, a couple of days not getting their hair extensions.
Wow.
Right? But that's just the ethic. I think
Yeah.
it's this thing of like being, you know, having the Korean War and like having the scarcity and then just being in this, the way that my parents think about it is they've had this business that was doing really well, right? And they were super appreciative of it and they didn't want to take it for granted and close and think that like, oh, they could do that. They were always thinking about the customer, like, oh, what if they come and we're closed, right? Or they go somewhere else, like, you know, that was in their mind.
Yeah.
So anyways, these grueling hours and it was just a grind and they just didn't want that for me. But little did they know that the corporate world is also a grind.
Corporate world is a grind.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you have,
I think it's more of it feels different because I've worked in both now.
Yeah.
And it's like the hours worked feel different because you're working for someone versus like doing your own thing.
Right.
I feel like to each their own, but for me, I found there's more fulfillment when it's your own thing. You're still working long hours, but it's different when it's your thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's the emotional aspect of having a bad boss. Have you ever had a bad boss?
I can't say I have.
You're lucky.
I've been very, very lucky.
Really lucky.
Yeah.
I've had some that are like really traumatic.
Really?
Yeah. Where they just pull like really manipulative, like narcissistic stuff.
Oh, wow.
Super traumatic. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's just, I mean, gosh.
Nightmare.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I can't imagine a world in which you're like trying not to see your boss.
Yeah.
Because you're
because they make you cry.
Yeah, they make you, that is so ridiculous to me. Like for a boss to make an employee cry, I'm like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Like that's so inappropriate, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
It's absolutely.
Yeah. And I just think of like how toxic that is in a work environment.
It
right?
is.
Like how do you do your best work if you're
can't.
so afraid of making mistakes and you hate your boss?
Yeah. No, but I think that stuff still exists, but I think it's a lot better now. I think because you can now drop the word "I'm really uncomfortable," and that's the HR signal of like,
oh really? Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Right.
Like I'm really uncomfortable. But I also think there's so much research and data that's come out, and we've gotten to your point earlier about like the importance of mental health.
Yeah.
That I feel like there was a lot that like employers did back in the day that is not acceptable anymore.
Like what?
I just think the way they treated people, where it was like maybe more acceptable to be disrespectful or to be, I don't know. I just feel like employers or leaders are more inclined to try to create more of a healthy work environment.
Yeah.
They have to because there's legal ramifications.
Absolutely.
But I also think there's so much information out there now that actually proves that like a healthy work environment makes more productive employees. More productive employees make more successful businesses.
I'm sure.
You know, and I think like, I mean, look at Google, right? Like you could go and get lunch and massages and like have a personal trainer at your office. Like they had like really so many amenities. And I know that's not necessarily talking about like the leadership, but it's like the leadership wanted their employees to have these types of things, that I think there's more of an emphasis on making people go into work environments that are much healthier and giving.
Okay, there is a caveat to that.
Oh,
because I have tried to give my employees more benefits like that, and they're not into that stuff.
What are they into?
More money. Like just pay me more.
Interesting.
Right. I think at the end of the day, they're like, oh, okay, that's great, but just pay me more.
Oh, that would have been a good conversation in itself, is like, what benefits have you given to your employees that you thought was going to work that doesn't work?
I mean, like even things like health insurance for their pets.
They don't want that?
I said, well, yeah, we have a stipend every month.
Got it. And they're just like, give that to me.
No one's taking me up on that, even though we have a dog company.
Do they really care about their animals?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I was like, that's funny. That is so funny.
Yeah.
Well, I have so appreciated this conversation. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank
yeah,
you
this has been
for having
great.
me.
I appreciate working with you. I appreciate you coming on this podcast, and also shout out to your husband, Zach.
Thank
He's
you.
amazing. And we got to do this again very soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Anytime.